Good evening and welcome to our Waltham Public Library program, Nutrition Myths, Separating the Headlines from the Science. My name is Deborah Hoffman and I organize programs and events for the library. Thanks so much for tuning in. Before we start, I want to let you know how the evening will go. Our speaker will do a 35 to 40-minute presentation and then she'll field questions. To ask questions via the chat function, use a Google account to sign into YouTube. Feel free to write your questions at any time and then I'll read them at the end of the presentation. Jessica Roy is a registered dietitian at the Waverly Oaks Athletic Club. Over to you, Jessica.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today. And thank you, Deborah, for hosting. I'm going to just start sharing my screen with all of you so you can see my presentation here. There we go. And I'm going to delve right in. So my motivation for going over nutrition myths, separating the headlines from the science today, is to help you, the consumer, make well-informed food decisions, because there are quite a lot of nutrition myths out there. And they stem from the media, where sometimes the science is extrapolated into misinformation. Oops. There we go. So why are there so many nutrition myths? Prevalence of pseudoscience and half-truth to make claims. And nutrition experts claim that they're experts in nutrition, but they may not actually be trained in any way in nutrition and dietetics. Usually people in that group are trying to sell something, a supplement, a book, a weight loss program, a cleanse. So they have a monetary motivation behind making these claims to grab your attention. Another reason that nutrition myths are easy to come by is something called cherry picking of data. So that means taking only the most useful portion of a study and using that to make these big claims, whereas maybe if you had read the whole entire study, there was more to it than that. And today, all of the nutrition myths I'm going to delve into are based on science. My references are at the end of the presentation, so you can feel confident in my information. And I am also going to give you examples of some of these myths and where they're coming from. So I'm super excited. Who can you trust for reputable nutrition information? If you prefer the web, which is a lot of people's go-to, look for sites with .org or .gov at the end of the web address. These are typically intended to provide info for the consumer without selling anything. And good examples are the American Heart Association, heart.org, Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, eatright.org, and choosemyplate.gov. So that's a .gov one that's also reputable. And of course, please reach out to your friendly dietitian, such as myself. We are experts in evidence-based scientific nutrition information. We are well-trained. We have to have a master's degree, an internship, and pass a comprehensive exam. And I will tell you that exam is not fun. I don't want to ever do it again. In order to maintain my credentials and not have to take that exam again, I have to complete 75 hours of continuing education credits every 5 years. So that's about taking a 1-hour webinar or course pretty much once a month or so. So you can rest assured that we are very well trained, up to date on what's going on with nutrition science. Other ways that you can look for nutrition information, and if you like to read, if you're a critical thinker and you love to look at scientific articles, go for it. Just know that sometimes one study shows X doesn't mean that all of the studies out there are showing X trends. So relying on some gold standard information like a meta-analysis, that's one way that scientists can gather information from multiple studies on a topic and lend power to that particular study that they're trying to investigate more. And then with nutrition science, correlation. So eating X food is correlated with X benefit doesn't mean causation. So eating X food doesn't cause X benefit. It's really easy to make that trend and see that connection in the media. So just put on those critical thinking caps when you're looking at the articles yourself. And also magazines such as Today's Dietitian, which reference scientific studies, are awesome ways to get some reputable nutrition info. There's way more out there. That's one that I like to use, and you can get access to it for free online. I'm going to start with coconut oil as my first nutrition topic myth. And just to give you some information on the nutritionals of coconut oil, it is higher in saturated fat compared to butter and olive oil. You can see that the coconut oil has 12 grams of saturated fat per tablespoon, whereas the butter has 7 and the olive oil has 1. The total fat component of each is similar, 14, 12, 13 and a half. Calories are also similar, ranging 100 to 120 or so. And that just lends me to bring up a couple of props here for all of you to see. Make sure that you can see it. This is my coconut oil. It's a solid at room temperature. My room is warm, so you can see it's melting slightly. This is my butter, also a tablespoon, also a solid at room temperature. And I just took it out of the fridge, so it's not melting. And olive oil. This is a liquid at room temperature. The reason that the coconut oil and the butter are solid at room temperature has to do with the saturated fat component of each, and the olive oil being really low to negligible amounts of saturated fat remains a liquid. The saturated fat keeps kinks in the chemical structure of the material of the fat and makes it solid. So that's just the background info about the differences. And I'm going to jump right into a myth here. So the first myth has to do with coconut oil and cholesterol. And I'm going to click on this article. Okay, so this is from Dr. Oz, and he's a well-known spokesperson in the media. And I want to specifically show you the part on cholesterol. Here we go. Can coconut oil reduce cholesterol? I'll get into some of the other health claims in a moment. And this particular article says that coconut oil has a saturated fat that helps improve cholesterol levels. It does have a type of saturated fat called lauric acid that is something called a medium chain triglyceride. That's true. But you can see there's no study cited here anywhere about coconut oil reducing cholesterol. It's just somebody's claim. And even if you go on down, there's no studies. It's just someone's claim. So that's kind of an example of the headlines confusing the consumer, because it's just making a claim without any supporting evidence. So I did a literature review, and it shows that the science is in fact quite mixed with the role of coconut oil consumption and improving cholesterol levels. Some studies did show a positive role for improving your cholesterol levels. So there's LDL cholesterol, that's your less healthy cholesterol. We encourage you to try to keep that on the lower side. And then there's your beneficial cholesterol, your HDL cholesterol. That's good for you, can protect against heart disease. So we encourage people to try to keep that on the higher side. So with coconut oil intake, over many studies, HDL may increase, but also LDL does, but to a little bit lesser extent. So that's a study showing that there is a benefit. But then unfortunately, there's contrasting studies showing that coconut oil was associated with increased LDL with no change in HDL. So I feel like there's more opportunity for research to be done. And the message, the takeaway is, if you are hoping to lower your cholesterol, I encourage you to follow a Mediterranean style diet. I have some references on that at the end too, that seem to continue to support a protection against heart disease by focusing on unsaturated fats, anti-inflammatory foods, olive oil, salmon, fatty fish, items like that. And if you like coconut oil in your cooking, or you like to rub it on your skin, go for it. Just please don't do so as a therapy to reduce your cholesterol, because it doesn't seem to be a strong impact in the literature, at least not yet. Okay. So coconut oil also seems to be in the news due to metabolism and weight trends. So I have another headline for you. Let me click on that. Great. So increase your metabolism. So this is from healthline.com, which I do actually like as a good consumer information tool, because they are citing their studies. This is a study from PubMed. You can get access to it. These are all cited. So I went into each study to see what it was saying, like I was referring to earlier, putting on your thinking caps and not just taking at their word, at the article author's word, that, you know, what they're saying in their little summary here is in fact the case. It's open to interpretation. So again, it is true that coconut oil has something called medium chain triglycerides. Our bodies use medium chain triglycerides for energy more easily than other types of fats. The problem with these studies is that they're not solely or even at all using coconut oil. They're using purified medium chain triglycerides. So I find it difficult to make that association between coconut oil and improved metabolism. I can see that they're showing me MCTs and improved metabolism seems to be well supported, but it's problematic for me as a scientist and a dietitian to say, okay, coconut oil isn't purified MCTs. I'm going to go back to my presentation and actually show you that the lauric, sorry, just jumped right ahead on you. The lauric acid in coconut oil, it makes up 50%, about half of the fatty acid component of coconut oil, but it only behaves as a semi or pseudo medium chain triglyceride, meaning only 25% of that is absorbed for direct energy use, and the rest is going to be used like a traditional fat and more likely to be stored on our body for future use. So purified MCTs do not equal coconut oil. And again, a review of the research shows that all in all, coconut oil and metabolism is not strongly correlated. In fact, if you just start to add in tablespoons of coconut oil, if you're just to eat coconut oil as a way to try to lose some weight, it's going to increase your caloric intake about 100 calories per tablespoon. And that is not going to help you lose weight unless you're cutting out calories from something else. You probably just remain neutral. So again, the takeaway is that coconut oil has some properties that may stimulate metabolism in a very modest way because it has that 25% medium chain triglyceride component to it. But again, eating it by the tablespoonful is not going to help you lose weight. And if that is your goal, I really recommend an overall varied, balanced diet, plentiful produce, lean meats, if you eat meat, and whole grains. So that is my information on coconut oil and metabolism. And I'm going to jump into another myth, and that has to do with eggs. So just real quick, this one egg, it has 195 milligrams of cholesterol, but it only has 1.5 grams of saturated fat. We recall our coconut oil, it doesn't have any cholesterol, but it has 12 grams of saturated fat. So quite a lot of saturated fat, not a lot of saturated fat, but yes, higher in cholesterol, not high in cholesterol. So what's going on with eggs? Why are they in the news off and on, off and on? Let's see what this media article is telling us. So are eggs healthy? What's the truth? And again, this is something that the everyday consumer might come about when they're searching the internet. I literally Googled eggs and health or coconut oil and health. This is what I was bombarded with. And I know how to take it with a grain of salt, but it can be super confusing for the everyday consumer that's getting mixed messages. So this article says cholesterol, cardiovascular disease, and eggs. So eggs are loaded with cholesterol. That is true. They have a decent amount of cholesterol in them, but again, they're low in saturated fat. Some experts suggest that eating just one a day may exceed the safe upper limit. I'm sorry about that. For cholesterol intake in terms of cardiovascular disease risk. So that, if I'm taking off my thinking cap, that scares me. One egg a day, and we're eating eggs in multiple baked goods, or maybe we're eating them for breakfast. And I really dislike when the consumer feels scared by food. That is my goal, to make you all feel confident and able to make informed food decisions so that you're not feeling scared by something like in this article. So it also goes into cancer risk, which that's not the myth I'm targeting at right now, but you can see that this particular plant-based news.org, oh, that's a .org. That makes me concerned even more, because I was telling you that .orgs are generally good sources of information. And I think this one is making a point that they want to air the consumer into a plant-based way of eating or a vegetarian-based way of eating. It's really going over the top with how it's cruel to chickens and other things that have not to do with nutrition. Let me get back into my presentation. So where's the confusion? The confusion, as you can kind of see in that article, is that eggs are high in dietary cholesterol. They're low in saturated fat, and they are packed with some beneficial proteins, vitamins, and minerals. Eggs are an excellent source of a B vitamin called choline that might not be as prevalent in other foods. So I went back to the research, back to PubMed, back to my scientific articles, and research supports a greater role for dietary saturated fat than dietary cholesterol on increased lipid levels in our body. So basically that means that high saturated fat foods seem to be correlated with increased cholesterol in our bodies, but high cholesterol containing foods do not seem to be correlated with high cholesterol in our bodies. And again, that the eggs are low in saturated fat, particularly when we compare it to the coconut oil that some other articles were really promoting for beneficial cholesterol levels. Research is always showing mixed results, so I want to bring that up. In healthy people, consumption of 6 eggs a day did not show any adverse effect on blood lipid levels, nor any direct association with increased cardiovascular disease. And the headline that I was showing you all was saying 1 egg a day. You shouldn't even have 1 egg a day. Seems like in healthy people, 6 is okay. I'm not sure how many people eat 6 eggs in a day. I'm sure there's people out there, so that's fine. On the other hand, in the research, there is a subset of the population that are hyper responders to dietary cholesterol in any form, not just from eggs. So it would be from the coconut oil too. And these hyper responders are more sensitive. So increased consumption of eggs may affect their cholesterol. However, the research again showed that 4 eggs over your week for a hyper responder did not have a correlation with increased cardiovascular disease risk. So I feel very comfortable encouraging most people that are tuning in today that at a minimum 4 eggs per week is okay if you enjoy eggs. If you don't, there's no reason to be eating them, but if you enjoy them, don't be afraid of them. And if you don't have a sensitivity to cholesterol, you're not already being followed by your physician for high cholesterol, or you're not on a medication to lower your cholesterol, you can actually have up to 6 in a day if you so choose. So the takeaway, the association between eggs and a negative effect on your cholesterol is overblown by the media, particularly in that article. If you're worried about your cholesterol, enjoy eggs with produce. Produce is high in fiber, part of the anti-inflammatory Mediterranean diet to help reduce your cholesterol. And enjoy up to 4 whole eggs a week if you are in that subset of hyper responders. Excellent. Next myth. So detox diets. I actually get, camera is just, there we go. Getting too excited here. I get asked about detox diets quite a bit. Let's look at this headline. This is from Us Weekly, and the headline is Our Picks Best Detox Cleanses, Teas, and Supplements, for weight loss in 2021. So Us Weekly is kind of tabloid, sort of. However, I believe the most recent data I could get on their readership in 2017 was, I'm just going to go back to that stat, 50 million consumers in 2017. So it's reaching quite a lot of people, whether you're getting it in magazine form or you're looking at it online. That's a large amount of people being affected by potentially, this is kind of an ad more than an article. And let's look at some of the things on here that are being promoted as good for detoxing and particularly for weight loss. There is a metabolism super powder. And again, there's no science in here. They're obviously trying to sell something. They make a commission or some kind of cut from when an individual buys from their website these items. There's a matcha green tea powder. There's a liver detox supplement made from milk thistle. There's a colon cleanse here, a daytime tea. sorry, I'm just going to stop that now because all those pop-ups keep happening. There were a lot of unnecessary items on there. There was a activated charcoal. So what is the deal with all of these things? I'm wary. I'm encouraging you to be wary of any claims associated with those products because clearly for profit, there's no studies involved supporting them. I tried to look into activated charcoal for weight loss and metabolism. And it is true that activated charcoal is used to detox if you ingest a poison. So you should only do that under medical supervision. And again, some of the items on that list are harmful. Some are completely neutral, but not going to harm you. Maybe they taste good and that's okay, like a tea or a fruit juice or a matcha powder. That's all fine if you like the taste of it. Unfortunately, it's not going to help you lose weight. It's not going to boost your metabolism. There is no research supporting that. So where does the term detox come in? Why is this popular? Let's look a little bit more about that. So our bodies do need to detox, but we can do it naturally with our organs, our lungs, liver, kidneys, GI tract. These organs are responsible for removing harmful chemicals that our bodies come in contact with, whether it's a pollutant, a chemical like a pesticide that might be ingested, etc. So there are some things that you can do to support your body's natural detox. And for instance, if you're exposed to air pollution, you can put filters or proper ventilation filters in your home and your workspace. If you are concerned about toxicants in your food, you can wash it, you can peel it, you can cook it. That reduces some of the toxicants. And then to support your vital organs that are busy doing that for you, there are some foods that you can enjoy that do that. And one of my favorites is just broccoli. I have a picture on the screen. My favorite broccoli. It's inexpensive, it's delicious, and it's high in a compound called sulforaphane. It's found in many cruciferous veggies, not just broccoli. It could be cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, etc. And they actually increase the liver's ability to detox, and they have an antioxidant capacity that they lend to the liver. So that basically means that they protect the liver from damage that might occur from constantly being bombarded by toxicants. And high fiber foods, again, like broccoli or any kind of high fiber food, produce, fruits, veggies, whole grains, are going to allow your body to bind toxicants in the fiber. And since fiber is not digested by your body, is not absorbed by your body, and you pass it through your GI tract, you get rid of the toxicants that way. So the takeaway is to please feel comfortable eating high fiber foods. You don't need any fancy pills or detox supplements or powders or any of that. You could save your money. And just as a good money savings comparison, the liver detox supplement that was on that ad, it was priced out at $26 on sale for 30 servings, which is roughly 87 cents per serving. And I got my broccoli to come out to, for a 1 cup serving per person, to 80 cents. So you're saving money with your broccoli. You're getting a delicious side item. I encourage you to just do that rather than invest in the fancy schmancy pills that are probably not going to do anything for you. Okay, so that's how you can all focus on detoxing. Eat your veggies. Okay, high fructose corn syrup is my next one. And just as a cute story that actually happened to me, I was at the store the other day, or a few weeks ago, and I was talking to the vendor. He was selling Coca-Cola Classic. And he says, this is a great beverage. I see you have your kiddos with you. There's no high fructose corn syrup in here. It's better for you. And thinking, why is that better for me compared to, this is another soda. They're the same ounces. And they have about, each of them has 45 grams, this one of sugar, this one of high fructose corn syrup. So is it true that one's better than the other? So my story just shows not only am I coming across this in the media, as may the consumer be, but I'm coming across it in my everyday grocery shopping. That's confusing, right? Is high fructose corn syrup better for the body, or worse for the body, than regular table sugar? Well, this article would lend me to believe that high fructose corn syrup is evil. This highlighted area says high fructose corn syrup has crept into more of our foods over the last decade. That is true. Compared with regular sugar, it's cheaper and sweeter and is more quickly absorbed into your body. I do believe it's cheaper and tastes sweeter. I am skeptical about it being more quickly absorbed into the body. I'll get more into that. Eating too much high fructose corn syrup can lead to insulin resistance, obesity, type 2 diabetes, and high blood pressure. So that's like, whoa, I don't want to get type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, obesity, insulin resistance. So I want to eliminate high fructose corn syrup from my diet completely. If I read that, if I'm not putting my thinking cap on, and if I'm talking to the vendor at the grocery store. So I really am interested in finding out what the research says about that. So let's go back into my presentation to learn about that. So this article is intended to scare people. It is written by a spokesperson that might be looking for some media attention. And the research does link excess sugar intake, however, in any form, sugar, high fructose corn syrup, honey, maple syrup, agave, any of those, to increased rates of chronic health issues such as diabetes, obesity, and metabolic syndrome. That is true, but it's any kind of sugar. The research does not support a difference for high fructose corn syrup versus traditional table sugar or sucrose and the rates of chronic disease. I'm going to explain that even more. So bear with me if you love chemistry and science. Sucrose, traditional table sugar, is a disaccharide, 2 molecules that our bodies break down into separate monosaccharides, single molecules, glucose and fructose. So it gives your body about 50% fructose. Then high fructose corn syrup is simply a solution of monosaccharides. So all of the little single compounds floating around in a fluid-like form. And it's a solution of glucose and fructose. And at the very highest amount solution, there's 55% fructose in high fructose corn syrup. So you can see that the amount of fructose that your body's getting from sucrose or from high fructose corn syrup is very, very similar. And then the research shows that the metabolic response by our bodies is very similar, whether it's sucrose or high fructose corn syrup. Again, I'm getting this from scientific articles, meta-analyses, placebo, double-blind controlled studies is another gold standard that I put a lot of effort into finding research on, research that includes those types of studies. So there's some hormones that are involved in weight management and obesity and insulin resistance and development of diabetes. And there's many hormones, but 2 of them that are strong players, leptin and insulin. So these 2 hormones respond in a similar fashion to equal amounts of high fructose corn syrup and to sucrose. Okay, so right now we still have more evidence that there is no benefit to drinking this versus this. They're going to do the same thing in my body. Which one do I like better? That's how I would decide. Which one's on sale? That's how I would decide. There's also a consensus by an expert panel. Again, they conducted a meta-analysis that concludes there is no difference between high fructose corn syrup and sucrose on body composition and obesity. The takeaway: excess added sugar, that is certainly a concern in the American diet, but the source of the sugar, whether it's from the sucrose or the high fructose corn syrup, doesn't make a difference in terms of metabolism, weight gain, or chronic disease. And because I'm talking a little bit about sugar, and you heard me say sugar of any kind has increased in the American diet over more than a decade. And it could be things like agave or maple syrup or honey. There's actually more than 60 names for sugar. So that's part of it. Food companies are sneaking sugar in without us actually knowing that it's sugar. I think brown rice syrup's on there that you wouldn't necessarily think is sugar. And just to, again, give you a nice visual, what is a recommended limit for sugar? For kids, this is just table sugar, plain white sugar. For kids, the recommended limit of added sugar is 3 to 6 teaspoons a day, 12 to 25 grams of sugar in a day. So that's how much it looks like. For women, it is just 6 teaspoons or 25 grams of sugar. That's what that looks like. And for men, it's 9 teaspoons or 38 grams of sugar. And if you recall, I said that both of these have 45 grams of added sugar in it. So with 1 soda, a man is already exceeding his recommended limit of added sugar in the day. So So the myth that high fructose corn syrup is worse for you is not true, but there's an element of truth that sugar in general is strongly correlated with some detrimental health effects in development of some chronic disease. So I encourage you all to just take that info with a little grain of salt and try to be careful with your added sugar. And this is specific to added sugar. So any naturally occurring sugar, that might be lactose in dairy products, and there is fructose in fruit. All of that is treated differently in our bodies. Don't need to be worried about your consumption of those foods. It's really the added sugars in sweetened beverages, candies, pastries, and items like that to just try to use in moderation. Excellent. All right. These are my references. I promised you that I read all of these studies and I did a deep dive into the research. So this is all of them on coconut oil, eggs, Detox, high fructose corn syrup, and sucrose. I'm not sure why that one didn't get highlighted. If you want to click on it, sorry about that. And thank you all so much. I hope you have some questions. If you want to ever reach out to me to get those references yourself, if you want to put on your thinking caps, or if you're interested in how you can better moderate your own sugar sweetened beverages, this is my contact info and I'm happy to help you. If there's any questions, I can answer those now too.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Hang on. Do you want to stop sharing your screen?
Oh, yes, I do. Thank you. There we go. Thank you.
That was so informative. I especially like the part about sugar and high fructose corn syrup and the difference between that and also the different names for sugars.
Yes.
I think it's something I look for in labels and it's very hard to avoid.
Absolutely.
So I do have a couple of questions to start us off. I've read that a heart healthy diet is also a cancer prevention diet. And
Okay.
I wondered if you had an opinion on that and if you could talk about that a little.
Absolutely. I do think that they would overlap with each other. A heart healthy and a cancer prevention diet would probably both include lots of produce, lots of fruits and veggies, whole grains, lean proteins. With the cancer prevention diet, I think it might also be really focused on organic, whereas the heart healthy, that might not be as big a focus. If the heart healthy also probably focused on low saturated fat containing foods, whereas that might not be quite a focus in the cancer prevention diet. But the overlap being the produce, the fruits and veggies, antioxidants as a clinician, I would talk about both the role of antioxidants on protecting your heart and then preventing cancer. Antioxidants are components in foods that protect our immune system, boost our immune system, and can prevent damage to our bodies, whether it's from heart or, unfortunately, tumors or cells that are programmed to one day become a tumor. You can actually eat a certain way to alter that. That's a really big area of interest of mine, is nutritional genomics and how you can eat to prevent certain genetic predispositions that you may have. That's an upcoming field of nutrition research. But yeah, so they overlap, but may have targets such as lower saturated fat for heart healthy and organic, more antioxidants for cancer prevention.
And some examples of antioxidants would be like blueberries, or?
Yeah, I was going to say blueberries get that nice health halo of being a superfood. And just like I don't want to scare consumers, I also don't put food on a pedestal. Blueberries are a healthy food. So are blackberries, raspberries, grapes, apples. Produce in general is going to be an excellent source of antioxidants. The more colors a person gets in their day, if you can eat a rainbow of colors over your week, that's fantastic. If you do it on a daily basis, you're like the perfect nutrition student for me. Nutrition role model. You're doing a really great job getting in different types of antioxidants with those colors.
Cool. I like that image of using a rainbow to sort of be your guide. Are there I know you said that you don't like to scare anyone about food, but are there any foods that you recommend people avoid or stop eating altogether?
So trans fat in food would be my answer. I do believe that food companies have taken trans fat out of the supply to the best of their abilities. Trans fat is a type of fat that affects our lipid levels in a really negative way. So it decreases our healthy cholesterol, the HDL, and it increases our unhealthy cholesterol, our LDL. So it does a double whammy. And again, I'm fairly confident saying that man-made trans fat has been taken out of the food supply for the most part, at least in the United States. Other than that, what not to eat? That's the strongest one in my opinion.
Okay, yeah. That's easy.
Okay.
What would you say, is there a question that you get most often from your clients?
Yeah, I'm sure there is. Let me think. A very popular question. A lot of people ask about timing of eating, and that's actually kind of a hot topic with intermittent fasting being a popular weight loss tool at the moment. Some people are like, is it really that important for me to eat breakfast, or is it really that bad for me to eat late at night? And it's a very individualized approach. Some people aren't hungry in the morning for breakfast, so don't have to eat breakfast. Some people find that at night they are stressed and tired, so have less of a mindful focus on what they're eating at night. So that might be why they're thinking for them, trying to cut back on it is a tool. But yeah, timing of eating has become a very popular question. And I alluded to intermittent fasting, and it's not a diet. It's just a timed restricted eating window where the individual can choose from multiple different options, but the most popular being a 14 to 16 hour fast. So maybe they're done eating dinner by 8, the kitchen is closed, and then they don't start eating again until 10 or noon the next day. And again, the effectiveness of that is very individualized. But I think that's why timing of eating has become a popular question for my patients.
Okay. Here's a question from one of our viewers. Hi, Jessica. Could you tell me more about diets that are purported to be, quote, anti-inflammatory, like the paleo diet? And are these beneficial for diseases like arthritis?
Sure. So the research shows there's the most research on a Mediterranean style way of eating. That's a strong anti-inflammatory diet. And in terms of arthritis, I believe that, well, I would want to check the research. However, I believe that a diet that is high in omega-3 fatty acids is correlated in the research with improved joint health, improved arthritis symptoms. Paleo specifically probably has a lot in common with the Mediterranean style way of eating, where it's less processed foods, focus on healthy fats. But in terms of an evidence-based research, I just don't have that information right now, and have to look more into paleo, specifically arthritis, anti-inflammatory components in that. I would say, to answer your question, if you're looking for an anti-inflammatory way of eating, it's Mediterranean diet, which includes most foods with a strong focus on olive oil, fatty fish, nuts, seeds, produce, lots of produce, whole grains, and dairy is in there, but it seems to be in the form of yogurt. And I'm not saying dairy is a problem. It just, the Mediterranean diet seems to encompass all of those foods with a smaller focus on dairy.
Okay. Helpful. Yes. What would you say is the best piece of nutrition advice that you can give your clients or people who are watching tonight?
Sure. I do tend to get a lot of people concerned about weight management. So I tell them what's going to work for you may not be what worked for your best friend or your parent or sister. A lot of people come to me saying, this person lost X amount of weight following this restricted diet. And I try and coach them, guide them, saying, if you want to do that, I'm happy to support you. However, it sounds like, like eating breakfast is really important to you. So perhaps intermittent fasting isn't the best option for you because it would end up leaving you hungry and open to overeating later in the day. So my best piece of nutrition advice is to let me tailor recommendations to you and not take all of the information from people around you and try and use it. So just again, because it worked for your hairdresser doesn't mean it's going to work for you.
Okay, great. I think that's all we have for questions tonight. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. And thank you, Jessica, for a fantastic presentation. I'm going to end this live stream. Everyone have a good night.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.